Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to episode 14 of the Pack Mentality Podcast. I'm Shorbz, joined alongside AQ Devi with a very special guest today, Stanley 557, an absolute pillar of the Zombies community, Voyage of Despair's #1 defender, and the newlywed husband. Stanley, congratulations on becoming a husband, sir. How
Thank
did you get into
appreciate it.
zombies?
How did I get into zombies? My older brother was about 14 when Black Ops 1, 13 or 14 when Black Ops 1 came out. He got an Xbox 360 for Christmas in 2010, and bundled with it, I'm pretty sure, was Black Ops 1. And he played the heck out of that game with one of his best friends, and one of his best friends loved zombies. So they started playing it together, and as the younger brother, I would always watch him play it. I wanted to hang out with him and play it with him. And as it turns out, as a 10-year-old, I sucked at zombies. This is a shocker to me, but it definitely fueled my interest to not only get better about the game, but to explore it in ways that weren't just gameplay. This game had a massive story, secrets to uncover, things that no one could figure out without community coming together and trying to solve them. So it got me interested in trying to play the game in other ways. So over the years, I would watch videos from Dalek, I would watch videos from Yodi Slayer, I would watch, I think it was NTG, and that's how I got into it. And then eventually around Black Ops 2, coming into Black Ops 3, I started playing it on my own, and the rest is basically history. I am a Zombies super fan. This is probably one of the few things I engage with on a daily basis.
I love that. Yeah. Also, Black Ops 1 was definitely my first. I remember going to my buddy's house and I saw him like playing multiplayer on Nuketown. I was like, this is cool because I had never really even experienced Call of Duty whatsoever until that moment. And then I remember him playing Kino and 5, and I was like, okay, this is like a totally different thing. And I absolutely fell in love with both. Multiplayer has slowly dwindled over the years, but Zombies has always been with me. And you brought up some OGs like NGT and Yodi Slayer. That's digging deep from back in the day. Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff. No, that's it's funny how everybody has like such different stories. Like some people join, BO4 or like Cold War, like in the modern era, but all three of us, yeah, definitely started pretty early. I think, did you play any like World at War? Like, do you remember playing World at War before BO1
No,
came
I
out,
did
Stanley?
not. World at War, I didn't play until years after, but I played a lot of the maps on Black Ops 1. World at War is probably the one game I have the biggest blind spot in terms of how much time I spend with all 14 different titles that Zombies and Extinction has. World at War is probably one I played the least, so it's the one I understand the least amount of nuances to.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we definitely, I mentioned it on last week's pod with AKW. We recorded, I think, Friday night. And you mentioning, or I guess us mentioning World at War, a thought I had during the boss fight was like, how did we go from knocked to this? It's crazy, which I guess is sort of a good segue into my question for you, which is like, what are your overall thoughts on Totenreich?
Dr. Toten. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am in love with Totenreich. It is. I was just writing my review for it today. It is everything that I want in a modern Zombies map that gives it the impression of a Black Ops 3 and 4 map. I feel like we in the community, especially a lot of us old heads, we always say we want maps to feel like they're of that era, and sometimes that can come across weirdly in translation. What does that mean? And I feel like what Totenreich brings to the table is consistent content, great content that has mechanics that all interlink with each other, and a persistent wow factor that I feel like is missing in a lot of modern Zombies maps.
Well said. Yeah, I'm already loving this map. I'm always so hesitant at first to like put my opinions out there just because everyone will claim recency bias or honeymoon phase or what have you. But yeah, like I just can't say anything else though other than I'm having such a great time, and I think it's made a lot of good strides towards the betterment of some of the complaints people have in the modern Zombies era, like unique equipment and all that stuff that a lot of people will say Treyarch's not listening at all, and I just can't disagree more. I think
always
they're
disagree,
yeah. I think they're very clearly making those steps to try to gain everyone's confidence again. Whether we'll see what that looks like more full picture in 2028, it's yet to be seen, but I'm loving what we got right now. Totenreich's fantastic.
Yeah, especially you mentioned like the scores, like the map unique score streaks and everything. Something I haven't been able to get into yet is like the different helmets you can get.
Yeah.
Was it just today that the fourth one was figured out, like what we can do with it?
I think so.
How like the actual unlock process, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's such a cool idea. Is the last time we saw like unique stuff, was that like Rev? Was it the last time we saw like unique stuff that you can put on that like gives you
Yeah,
certain...
I think yeah, besides like some miscellaneous outliers like the bear claw medallion from Ashes.
Right.
Yes. I think specifically like wearables that you earn that are multiple throughout the map, Rev's the only one that comes to mind.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, one thing that a lot of people were saying, like coming into Totenreich, was that it kind of looked like a BO1 map. I mean, maybe that was just like Call of the Dead, but they saw the lighthouse and they were like, oh yeah, it's Call of the Dead. But no, I think there's just like, to your point, there's so much like depth to this map that was maybe something that Treyarch sort of lost a little bit in the modern era. But they came back to it and they did it with like insane execution. I'm very happy with Totenreich. I don't know if I put it out on Twitter or if it was my personal ranking, but it's a top 5 map for me. So I'm definitely a big fan of Totenreich so far.
Top 5, yeah.
Do you have a rough estimate of where you would rank it so far, Stanley?
I would say right now probably somewhere in my like top 10 or top 15. I think there's a ton of great maps in Zombies, but
Fair.
Just in terms of the level of execution that they're able to pull off in this map is something that I wanted to see. If I'm comparing everything in the modern era, it's probably top 3 easily.
Okay.
Just
Nice.
what it does. I think that like the biggest thing I think of is just the way that its mechanics all play into each other. You have the frost rounds that slow you down, and there's so many different ways to remove it. You have the wonder weapon that gives you a persistent heat effect that allows you to run around. It affects your teammates in co-op. You have the trap. If you activate it, it prevents you from freezing. You have the ice helmet that you can now use. You have the ways that you have the unique score streaks that are only unique to this map. You have I'm trying to think, the fishing mechanic. Just a whole unique mechanic that's unique to this map in particular. That's the kind of stuff that I want to see in a modern Zombies map that gives it that BO3, BO4 feel. BO7's been knocking it out of the park in that specific respect in general, but this map actually takes it to the next level, and that's the level of quality that I want the game to shoot for every single time, even if it's not the most realistic standard to hold it to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that all these different facets of the map are also very thematically fitting as well. I feel like that's a major part of the whole ecosystem of Zombies, is that it's this nice little package that gives the map even more flow and identity. Very happy and satisfied with all the little side things that we've seen thus far, and hopefully there's more to come, and hopefully the Chinese hackers don't give it all away too quickly.
Right. In terms of like the main quest, and just real quick in Totenreich, how would you say that? Like obviously the other stuff is kind of like side content, but the main quest, like how do you feel about it and how it stacks up with BO7?
No, I really enjoy the main quest. I think the thing that cemented it to me as a lot of fun and really good is that moment right towards the end of the egg where you give the robot the amp. It sucks it in with a black hole, almost akin to Ascension, and then the giant comes down, has a quick little fight with it. It's just that like scenario for a second. I'm like, whoa, that's a big set piece right there, and they let it all play out. It's part of the map. It raises the stakes, and then the boss fight itself, and it's just fantastic. It's just the way that they allow the complete insanity of this robot ducking back and forth, pulling off wrestling moves on the giant. It's so cool. That's the kind of energy that I love when Zombies has.
Yeah, I pointed out last week, or it'll be last week when people are watching this, but I pointed out that I love that we see them beefing in the intro cutscene, midway through the egg, even up until the boss fight. It's just like a constant head-to-head thing that keeps happening, and it's so satisfying. We can get into the boss fight at some point here, but it's so cinematic, and it's really coming to fruition, the constant battling we're seeing. It's so neat.
It's sweet. Yeah.
I love that.
We'll definitely. Oh, go ahead, Stanley.
No, I was gonna say I just like that it changes things up every map. They're doing something different with each Shadowsmith. With Vatharian, you don't see him till the end of the egg. With Kaltheris, you kind of get some hints towards her at the beginning, and then she doesn't show up till the end when it's revealed she's the map itself. But then with Dravakar, he's in the map from second one. He's the thing you see in the intro cutscene. He's this thing that you fight. And then it's part of the experience. Even if I wanted to be a part of it a bit more, I was very happy with the way that it differentiates him from the other Shadowsmiths.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I
They
love
definitely
that.
are doing a really good job with like presenting them differently. I mean, even on Paradox, everybody and their mother thought that the Mushroom Cloud was going to be the boss fight, and then it just ends up being this like the Dark Heart that just like descends from this cloud. It was definitely a curveball. So they're keeping us on our toes for sure. I mean, not that anybody didn't think that Dravicar was going to be the boss fight, but it's just, yeah, to your point, it's just presented so differently, and each boss definitely feels unique to itself, which is really cool to see in BO7.
Yeah.
That go ahead.
I was gonna move on to the next point, but if you wanted to add to that.
No, I was gonna bring up how you that was a common complaint that you had when talking about like BO6s. They very often fully gave away the boss fight
Yeah. Yeah.
during that life cycle and left no room for imagination. And I think they've hit a very good sweet spot here. Like there are teases, like Stanley pointed out, like you can hear Vatherion in the Dempsey side egg. Obviously the first half of the Caltheris boss fight, we didn't necessarily expect that to be the Shadow Smith, but they were teasing at it. I think Paradox was the first one to really just surprise everybody. I don't think anyone saw something like that coming, but this one's different in that it makes very clear like this is going to be the boss, and it frames the boss fight differently in that way. And I'm just glad that they've moved into this direction instead of having this large being teased in some way and we all like shrug our shoulders and know that that's what we're going to end up fighting. It's kind of boring, but they're doing good now.
Yeah, and that's
personally honest. Oh, you first, man.
No, you go ahead, Stanley. You're the guest of honor.
No, honestly, to counter your point, I actually like they show off the boss fights. I'm big on cinematics and thematic through-lining, so I do like that they show off the bosses, that they find a way to tie them into the experience. Like, I like knowing that Richtofen's the boss, and like obviously he was going to be the boss with alongside Sam in the Reckoning. I feel like they were constantly building up to some kind of twist, but I think the surprise is always how do they do it. Him in the mech suit's really cool, and then him with using the Wonderwaff as an attacking method, that's really cool. But no, I agree with you with that, with the idea of having, in BO7, having that sweet spot of some of them we know beforehand, some of them we don't, but I feel like they're always trying to find a way to keep us second guessing and doing something that surprises us.
So I guess in terms of like BO6, like, did you like the fact that like we sort of saw like Patient 13, the Guardian on Citadel, and like Z-Rex? Like, did you like the fact that we
yeah, absolutely.
could see them
I
before
feel
the
like,
boss fight? Okay.
yes, even just seeing the boss, it's not just the impression of it, it's always the execution of it. Patient 13 is something so different than what you see as just that one tentacle on the map. The Guardian is just a statue that stands there, but once it gets into the action, it's launching you around with its hammer, it's summoning lava into the arena, it's raising undead from like the bottom of its like feet like a forge. It's always the execution that matters to me way more than just it's the boss. I feel like that they like having these things as set pieces that add to the experience, rather than say something like the DE Keeper or the Giant Thrasher on Zetsubo, where those are kept so secret that they're just at the end of the egg, and the game's kind of just like, okay, here's the boss. It's something that happens.
That's fair. I guess the only complaint I would have about it is Patient 13 is a specific outlier there to an extent, because yeah, you do see the tentacles, but you don't know what it actually looks like until the very end, which is that is pretty neat. I guess once they start making it like a pattern, I wish they would have shaken it up, because by the time you get to Shattered Veil, you see the T-Rex and you're like, oh, okay. Like I wish they would do it how they do now, where it's sometimes yes, sometimes not. But
yeah, but I definitely think that they hear that criticism, and then in BO7 they've clearly tried to take a better approach to that.
Absolutely.
They definitely want you to be surprised. I mean, Vatharian, how do you even describe him? He's a fleshy monster that turns into a Beyblade.
Right.
When someone told me about that, we were hunting the egg on day one, me and my team. Someone told me, he's like, yeah, he's kind of like a Beyblade. I'm like, what does that mean? It was such a funny way to describe it.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because me and AQ Devi, we were like, he saw it before I did, and I'm a like, I don't want anything spoiled to me before like some like at least I definitely don't want to see what the boss fight looks like before I go into it. But AQ Devi did, and he didn't know at the time. It was like right when it like was discovered. He was somewhat hesitant, because I think for a second you thought that it was just like the boss fight was literally just driving around and collecting those pods, right? Like you were like a little worried about that.
Yeah, right. The souls right before you go into the map. Yeah.
So what it was I saw a picture of the being, and you were like, Shorbsy, you were kind of asking me questions about it. I was like, I don't even know like how to answer your questions at all. But what you're referring to is I saw the written rules that Margwa put out, and it brought up something about a driving step like at the very end, and we were like, oh no. But it turned out being it turned out being one of my favorite boss fights in Zombies history.
Vatharian is one of my favorites mechanically. It's actually one criticism against Ashes is that it's the only part of the map where you truly get to drive Tessie around and just do whatever you want with it. It's the only part of the map that takes full advantage of Tessie, but it's also what makes it good. It's that I think in the developers' minds, they're like, we've constrained you the whole map with straight lines and circles and loops. Let's take those guardrails off. You are heading right into that boss, and you're going to figure out how you can do it in this full open terrain. How do your skills of using Tessie stack up now in this new environment?
That's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I definitely think it was definitely a risk having a boss fight fully centered around just driving like the truck around, and then obviously if you're on solo, you got to switch to the turret as well. But it's good when Treyarch takes those kind of like risks. Like I would rather have them like swing for, and you guys I'm sure agree. I'd rather have them like swing for a home run and maybe miss on it than like just go for a single and like try
100%.
Yeah,
Cold War to me is them always hitting for that one bait, like the single, playing it safe. Yeah. BO7 definitely feels more like they're trying to hit for those home runs, and whether or not they work or not, they're gonna. I appreciate the boldness. Like Vatharian is one of my favorite bosses in such a long time, just because of that. Despite my issues with it and my criticisms with how it's balanced, I still just love the concept, the execution of it. Like when you get into a good run of it and that music starts going and you're driving into them to stop the laser, that right there is what creates in my head memories that are fantastic, with like that make Zombies feel so special compared to every other game on the market.
Yes. Hell yeah. We're getting way off Totenreich, but I have to ask you because you kind of maybe answered my question already, but Stanley, were you one of the people calling for a nerf on Vatharian?
I was, but I always like to leave an asterisk. I wanted one nerf or one buff. Vatharian felt so close to being perfected, where it was like, change one thing about it and the boss would be perfect. Make it so the pods either regenerate, or Vatharian's just a little less aggressive, or make it so that when you're in solo, you don't take as much damage in the car. Treyarch decided to do all 6 of the buffs, or buffs and nerfs, and now the boss is a bit too easy, and that's not something I'm the biggest fan of. I think he's honestly the most balanced in Curse, where you have gold armor, but he's also at his pre-patch version. So he is just going to rip right through you if you're not paying attention. The pods don't regenerate. You have to keep track of the car's health. You have to pay attention to the enemies around you. That's where I feel like the boss is in a really good state. But that's not because they changed anything about the boss. You just have a buff that makes it more manageable.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. They definitely neutered it a little bit by
yes, that's the only thing I don't like about it, is that BO7 can feel very reactionary with how they change things. And I do hope that in the future they find a better way to balance a bit quicker. We look at the LGM that needed a buff so badly, and it went without one for about 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, something like that. It was a long time, way longer than it should have, and by that point most people stopped playing Astra because the LGM just wasn't up to snuff for some of them.
Yeah, very well put.
Yeah, I remember they buffed it around the time where they were doing that leaderboard event for Mars Survival, and I was already like, I think in like the 80s or the 90s on my round count, and I had the LGM, but by that point, like, oh, they buffed it, and then I could not tell at all. I forgot that one of the features was even to make it fully automatic, because I was still tapping it just out of habit. But
it's not even that good fully auto, because like what it does is that you fire your 6 shots, it goes down to 0. If you keep holding the trigger, the first 3 UFOs come back. But then I've noticed that when you fire those last couple of shots, they have a lower fire rate. So then those last 3 shots are super slow, and then the gun's just in a constant cycle of just only firing those 3 shots super slow. Whereas if you fire all 6, wait a second, let it recharge back to 6, fire again, the fire rate is faster and does more damage because it's firing out at a quicker DPS. Just barely over full auto, but then it kind of wastes the whole full auto buff in the first place. And then it's like, what did we change besides giving it a bit more firepower if the zombies are really close together, which doesn't always happen in BO7 due to the very erratic and very aggressive AI that just goes all over the place.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna realign us. Obviously, always fun getting sidetracked. And we'll definitely, as a pretty extensive thought or discussion about the boss fight, but we'll, I guess, go a little bit more in depth on that later on here. In terms of Totenreich, is there anything like specific that comes to mind that it exceeds at, and then as well as like falling short?
I'll start with my falling short. I only have one falling short in that I wish the giant played just a bit of a bigger role throughout the map. Some dynamic way that he affects the map, or maybe it's just me wanting that Origins robot feel, but having him walk through the map, or maybe on special rounds, he's the reason why the frost comes and like maybe his head peers over the mountain, he freezes it, and then he goes back to what he's doing. Just something like that I think would have absolutely, like, just something that makes me look around my environment and have a constant feeling of, oh my gosh, there's this ice giant. Which, again, you just don't see him enough as much as I love him. And I do like that he is used sparingly. I think that's just me being pulled in two different directions of, I want him to be in it more, but I also feel like that would diminish how awesome he is when he does show up.
Yeah, I think some people were sort of maybe operating under the assumption that the Shadowsmith might function similarly to how the Origins robots did in Origins. Is that something you think you would appreciate, at least even in, maybe not in function, but in reference to the map?
I would have loved it, but I guess, yeah, maybe the reference would have gone too far, and then it would have just felt like Origins again. So I have to give them credit
cheap.
On probably seeing that and just realizing, you know what, let's use him sparingly so that it always feels like it's a good wow factor when he does show up.
Yeah, it's more meaningful. Yeah, which is
go ahead.
I was gonna say it's really cool when he shows up when you're doing like the parkour wonder weapon step. I was like blown away when.
But I have to ask, my only question is, what does he actually do? Is he the one summoning the panels? Because I thought that was Astrid. So does he just show up just to say hi? Like I can't
aura farming.
Remember. I guess so.
It looks like he spawns.
I see him. Yeah,
it looks like he spawns the second half of them, because you're kind of brick-walled for a second.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is bizarre. That's a good question.
Like, why would he help us, though? I don't know. I think I feel like it just pops up to say, like, I'll see you in an hour, bro. Like, better come prepared.
I mean, speaking of that whole parkour, that's a good WoW moment right there. Like, in any other map, especially in a Cold War, they probably would have just had you fight up the lighthouse with, against the zombies. Here, they do a whole, like, little parkour section. That's really cool. It's just something different. It shakes up the variety really early on, and it doesn't just backload all the cool stuff in the Easter egg, which some eggs do a lot, where the first half is really, like, Astra's a good example. Astra is really boring when the first half is just building the wonder weapon and waiting for Oscar to respawn, and then the back half is defending the teleporter, doing all the stuff on Mars, fighting Caltheris. This egg has a really good variety of puzzles, cool moments, mystery, and good action sequences that are fun to do.
Yeah, if you don't know, Shorbzy's all about hype moments and aura around here, so
all about aura, bro.
Yeah, this map has a lot going for it in that sense.
Yes.
Definitely, yeah. It was hard for me to think about something that it falls short with. Like, I couldn't. Maybe, like, I wish the egg was a little bit longer. As somebody who, this is a mandatory mention of the podcast, I'm an Easter egg guy. So like, it's important to me that there's like a lengthy quest. And even though this one isn't lengthy, to your point, Stanley, like there's a lot of like really cool moments. Like the stuff is like, it's just fun to do. Like, it's small things like picking the lock and like doing the crane thing. Like that's, I mean, it's not like super fun, but like it's just a cool thing to do, I guess.
No, I like the crate step too. There's so much behind it. You have to like, if you can just brute force it if you want to, it's not going to kill you. But if you pay attention to the environment, you look at the note and you actually compare it to the paper, you can then figure out the puzzle really quickly. It's a really cool idea. I was doing all my cursed runs last night, and by the time I was doing tier 1 at the end, I was like, yeah, this egg is kind of short. You finish, like, if you're really persistent with it, you can finish it by round 17. For some context, on 9, you start the second step on round 17, and the most of the egg is done in the 20s. So I don't know if you know, BO7 needs to gate lock more rounds so that it goes deeper into the main game, but then that becomes too boring, or, you know, do they just add more steps and then the Easter egg feels like it takes 3 hours? I'm not sure, but I don't know. Maybe I think we might be too good at these eggs too. I remember playing Blood of the Dead, and it took me around 35 to first complete the egg, but now I can complete it by like 20, 22. So maybe it's just me getting better at the game.
Yeah, there's a level of min-maxing that can go on if you really want to push it to its limits. I had a question, but Shorbsy, go ahead because I have to remember what it was.
In terms, yeah, I mean, I guess if it was up to me, I would say just add more steps. My biggest gripe with like Citadel, for instance, going back to BO6, is like I wish each sword took like 2 or 3 more steps to go, so it like actually felt like you like earned getting the swords. Like they're just too easy to get. I wouldn't say that's a fault of Totenreich. Like I think it's a pretty solid wonder weapon quest. Like probably the best, like one of my favorite wonder weapon quests ever. Every step is a lot of fun, even though like the constellation step with the lantern is pretty easy. It's just like a cool thing to do. But in the quest itself, yeah, I would have liked to see probably like 2 to 3 more steps, but a quest doesn't necessarily have to be like lengthy for me to enjoy it. Like they can, you know, if the steps are still engaging and fun to do, like the parkour step to get the wonder weapon, then you know it's totally fine. It's still a really fun quest in my opinion.
Yeah, I wonder how I would have felt about like I love hunting for this map. I feel like all the hunts for a lot of these maps recently have been really fun, even if the eggs end up being on the shorter side when we can repeat them. I wonder how I would have felt about BO3 and 4 if I had hunted those back in the day and then compared them to my experiences now, because I love hunting them. Like I've been hunting all the eggs since Citadel at this point, and I loved hunting Totenreichs. Like communicating with people, trying to figure out steps, trying to get locations down, and then trying to repeat what other teams are doing and catching up to everyone else. It's always a lot of fun to do these main quests. And I think a lot of it does come down to, I think the team really wants people to solve them on day one. That seems to give them that magic. And for anyone out there, if you're solving the eggs just by doing guides online, I cannot recommend enough trying to jump in on day one with everyone else and trying to solve it alongside people. I think that really adds so much to the experience.
Wow. Yeah. I've never been an egg solver. I typically just like make a video, my first game on, my raw emotions going into it, and then by that time, who knows how much of the egg's already been solved, maybe even done. And that is kind of what happened with Totenreich. And that was the question I couldn't remember was, what are your thoughts, Stanley, on the amount of time it took to solve this quest, especially looking back on Paradox, which is such an outlier for its size ratio to quest length.
Yeah. Time seems to be such a weird metric when it comes to Easter egg solves. It's almost kind of like uncomparable sometimes, because back in the day, it was only people on PlayStation, and most people didn't stream, and most communities, there wasn't, you know, Discord wasn't really a big thing. There weren't really big communities on Skype. So now it's like you have all these different ways of people to play, to get involved, all these different communities and streamers. Like, it's not just the Big 10 anymore. There's hundreds of us now that do these and live stream them and find out steps and do these high round Easter egg like competitions and all that. So I definitely think it has gotten, it was inevitable that as they opened up being able to do the main quest to more people, it was just going to get shorter. I honestly think that if we had the whole community solving Revelations, we most likely would have solved it way faster than we did back then. I think the bone step would have gotten solved. I feel like there are harder steps to solve now than there were back then. But I don't know, maybe I'm just looking at her weirdly. But
no, I mean, yeah, you definitely, you could be right. I'm somebody that like I love following along the hunt. I tell AQW all the time, like, because Rev took like a week, I believe, right?
It was not. I think it was 9 days, something like that. It was over a week.
If a modern map took 9 days, like I would be like, that would be like heaven, bro. I'd be ecstatic. Like just wake up the next day, I'm like, what did we figure out today? And like you mentioned following along. So what I'll do is like my first playthrough is I'll just like go through the map, see what's going on, kind of just interact with anything that I think looks Easter eggy, and then I'll like follow along with the stream. And one thing I've noticed, for as much as I love Easter eggs, I don't think if you get like Totenreich, if you gave me like a year to solve Totenreich's Easter egg, I don't think I would. Like I'm just not good at like finding these steps.
No, we're like, me and my team, we're like, you know, we're in the first hour of the hunt, I think 45 minutes in. We're still trying to get around and trying to find parts for the wonder weapon, and we hear Freckleson solved the wonder weapon quest. I'm like, what? and like I figured out that you had to, you know, press the button to get the thing to come down, but not in a million years would I have thought to go onto the boat and grab the chain while you're jumping across.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't have, or like, you know, where the chili chunks was.
Right.
I wouldn't have thought to look there and hold X in that one specific box. I would have been screwed.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that, because I actually found that you can like bring down the wall as well. But then I was like, what do I do with this? Like I thought I had to like
Yes,
jump on it somehow, and like when it raises up, I would grab something, and then, but like
Yeah.
not the wall jump and grabbing the chains off the boat. That didn't even
Yeah.
like remotely enter my mind.
Whitecliff and I were just like, okay, so that opens up a a wall run temporarily to bounce across the boatyard. What does that do? We couldn't
Right.
figure it out.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
There's definitely the best eggs are always the ones that like I think take a long time to solve, but they're very easy to master once you know what to do. I wish they could nail down a better way to maybe not artificially inflate the solve time, like the bone steps, for instance, but maybe just have more steps in there. But the information era. Yeah, the information era.
Oh yeah, please finish. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. I was just gonna say it's kind of run solves into the ground to some extent, unless you get caught up on something that no one would think of, like the last step on Paradox.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that like they've been trying to do this a lot more, where they create red herring steps to try and slow us down, like the purple objects on Reckoning that show up way earlier than they're needed, or any of the 4 trials that you do on Ashes and like the different order that you solve them. You can't even do Blackwater Lake, whatever it's called, the cabin. You can't do that one until you're done with the other 3. They read like it's supposed to be difficult to force you to keep have purposeful errors in the quest. But I definitely agree. I think they could probably add a few more steps and that would help, but I think the community is way too good at solving these. And no matter what they do, unless they make every single step a bone step, we probably won't be getting anything more than 12 hours out of it. Even Reckoning, they had that one step where there's a head completely out of bounds and you have to use a charge shot Gorgafex on it. And people still found that. Or in Ashes, there are 3 sets of keys and 3 hidden spots in 3 parts of the map.
Yeah.
And there's 9 total locations, and people track down all 9 locations within the first 5 hours. I don't know.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
I think the Zombies community just can't be stopped.
We're a well-oiled machine together, that's for sure.
Yes, they'll definitely need to start putting stuff in like Morse code again in different coded languages if they ever want to get to slow people down. 'Cause then you have to solve them, and that's going to take forever.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I was really hoping the Paradox piano step was like that. I thought it was like something that it was like a different thing each time, but it's just the same.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going through it. I'm like, because I did music in high school, I read bass clef, so I'm like, wait, I know this. And then we did it again, I think later that day, and I tried it again, and I'm just like, oh, it's the same code.
Yeah.
That was disappointing.
Yeah. I remember MZC's guide that I watched. He pointed out like it plays the same song afterwards, so it's probably the same notes. And sure enough, unfortunately,
in terms of, I think you mentioned, so it falls short in terms of like you would have liked to see Dravacar be more present, or like I don't know if you're walking through the map, or to your point, like peering over like the mountain when there's a ice round or frozen round. What do you think it exceeds that specifically? You might have already mentioned it, but
I think the first thing that comes to mind actually is just side Easter egg content. Like I think of that stupid gnome, like the stupid gnome side quest. You turn into a gnome that jumps around and does a lot of damage. That's one of my favorite ones because you can rebuy it and just do it whenever you have the money for it. That's really cool. One of my biggest complaints about some of BO6 side quests, especially some of the more unique ones like the Mega Stuffy or Aetherella, was that you were one and done. You got your 90 seconds of fun, and then that was it. It wasn't there for the rest of the game. I have been dying to see side quests that actually feel like they do something permanent to the game to alter how you play, going out your way to completely change how you're going to fight the zombies. At the end of the day, they all have the exact same function. It's just kill things, but better. So it's really cool to have cooler ways to do that just give you more ways to play. I also love the rest of those helmets. As talked about earlier, one of them just stops the frost from slowing you down. That's fantastic. Apparently in the round 100 boss fight, it's always cold or something like that. So if you don't have the one weapon out, you're going to freeze eventually.
Oh god.
So I need to double check that, but I'm pretty sure if that's the case, then that new hat that we just solved, that's perfect for stopping that. It's great to have mechanics that counteract other mechanics and reward you for playing the map and exploring the full play space. It's better than just a pot of loot dropping down, which they really like to do.
Yeah.
But that's
I didn't know that.
One place where I see them succeeding. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wait, what's up?
No, that was it. That's where I feel like they succeed in this map. That's one of my big points. Yeah.
Yeah, to your point, it's I didn't know that about the round 100 boss fight. That's crazy. I'm gonna have to, yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're going for that, you have to get that helmet then.
Yes.
One thing I was worried about, I think I was kind of flipping back and forth between your stream and then Donut's stream. And basically, like, I think Donuts, like, found a Viking helmet. Like, he got one from from fishing. And I was really worried that was just, like, a cosmetic thing. Similar to, I think, the crown on, going back to Citadel. The crown on Citadel, that doesn't do anything, right?
Yes, the Rat King crown is purely cosmetic.
I was really worried it was going to be something like that, but no, it's really cool seeing
it gives you better
like,
fishing luck. Yeah.
Yeah.
My teammates and I think Wycliffe and I hooded, my buddy had grabbed it, and we were like, oh yeah, I think it's just cosmetic, doesn't seem to do anything. And I was sad at first, but then it was like, no, it actually does do something, and that's cool.
Right. Is there like, do you guys know some of the rewards you can get from fishing? I haven't like looked into that. Like with the helmet on?
You can get all 4 score streaks that are required, which is really helpful if you're running the no score streaks cursed relic. You can get points, you can get the helmet, you can get I haven't seen anything like big yet, like any pap crystals or any weapons. It seems to be a very limited pool. But I've gotten Casimirs from it, I've gotten equipment from it, yeah.
Last night I had it on, and I like 2 or 3 times in a row I got a free perk power up. Unfortunately, by that time I already had full perks, and it's not treated as a mystery eternal perk. Yep. It's just if you don't have certain perks.
Oh, really?
So yeah,
yes. Unfortunate.
I thought I had a hack to like totally fill my perk slots out.
That would be so nice, yeah, right?
No, it's sweet that you get that though. Like that's something that I would look for. Like how like Origins, when you get the golden shovel, you get like rewarded with like better stuff. Like if I was doing it and I was just getting, especially after doing like the quest, if I was doing it and I just got like a Wonder Barrage, I don't think I would care all that much to get that helmet. But no, if it's like pap crystals, like free perks, ray guns, something like that, then like that's definitely worth doing in my opinion.
Yeah, I haven't tested it in the higher rounds with the helmet yet, but I just know that like just being able to fish up RCXDs, especially with how stupid that jump can be for the main quest.
Yeah.
Like I think during the day 1 solve, my buddy and we ended up with like 14,000 salvage, and by the end of us trying to jump over to the other side, we spent all of it trying to get an RCXD in because we didn't know how to do the jump.
Yeah, that jump is crazy. All right, Stanley, as the resident lore person, how do you think, have you looked into the lore for Totenreich, and like how does it
You're
stack
gonna hate
up
me. It's the only thing I haven't
gosh.
looked into on this map. I'm waiting to collect all the intel, and apparently we're missing a radio. So most likely in Richtofen's side quest, we have to go in there and put one more specific number into his radio. Yeah. So whenever we solve that, we solve that. But as for what I have understood, I think it's really cool. I'm going to go mostly into the Richtofen side quest. Having like that side quest, all 3 of them so far have been really well done. I love the music that goes along with them, the cinematics of them, the special effects on them, like the warping screen and the distortion in the voices and the Shadowsmith speaking to our characters. I like the way it explores these like demented versions of these characters. You have the courageous Dempsey who fled and went MIA. You have Nikolai, who's often so hardened-hearted, and his heart was what was used against him to lead the people into the tunnel. The brilliant Richtofen allowed his ambition to blind him, and then he walked right into the hands of a Dark Ether demon. That's really cool stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that I want to see more in Zombies. BO6 was so blah with the story. Yeah. It didn't feel like there was any character to it. That's the kind of stuff that's awesome.
We talked on the last pod about how, in my opinion, it's sort of unfortunate that like, of course the brand new OGs, if you can call them that, like they're really taking center stage, and it feels like Requiem is just kind of there along for the ride. And I posed the thought that maybe we could have side eggs for the Requiem crew as well. I think that would have kind of given more story where Requiem really needs it, in my opinion.
I totally agree. That's the only thing I wish they did with them, is that Requiem is so clearly set up to be like the heroes to these fallen heroes that need some kind of like leader and guidance in their lives. And Requiem was so close to being that. Like the scene where Gray, quells Nikolai's rage and helps him, calm down in front of Caltheris. That's a cool moment, but I want way more of that to flesh them out, to give each teammate a different dynamic with a different one of the originals. That would just help the crew like meld better together, because clearly when you ask people who they care about more, Requiem or
Right.
the OG characters, they're just going to say the OG characters. And even the writing backs that up. They're just infinitely more compelling to follow along with and to keep up with. So
Yeah.
who knows where they're going to go.
Yeah, I think it would just make so much more sense to like get them higher up that mountain just for their seemingly inevitable fall at some point in time, maybe at the end of this game. I think it would hit a lot harder if we just really sunk our teeth into them, but
yes,
it's what it is.
Yeah, speaking of those like moments where like that's another cool thing about the map, that X factor right there. Whenever you jump out of the robot, there are just times where you go to the secret rooms and they have a different meaning to different characters.
So
that's
sick.
cool.
Yeah,
that's stuff that like more modern Zombies maps need. Like I don't feel like enough of these maps have moments that are like not linear moments, not secret moments, or secret moments that like just don't feel like they're part of the beaten path. Like you could go the whole game and never see that happen because you don't need to go on the robot more than maybe a couple of times throughout the quest. So having moments like that where they hide things in places where you just need to interact with the play space, that's cool. That's stuff. That's what I want to see way more in Zombies.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. I think it might have been you or somebody else, but like this was a while ago, so I'm gonna paraphrase a little bit. But it's basically like it was always really cool when Treyarch like did something that, like some kind of secret room or something like side content, like side Easter eggs, that like they know that the majority of people playing the map aren't gonna see, but it's still really cool. Whereas I think in modern Zombies, especially like I think BO6, this is a fault of BO6, is they like anything cool that they did, it seems like they like really wanted to make sure that everybody playing the map saw it, so they would like incorporate it in like the main quest or something like that. So yeah, to your point, seeing like the random rooms and stuff, like not every game, you're not going to get like every game that you go to like the Requiem room, or like, you know, you could go to like one of the rooms and think that that's it, and then just as you keep going, it's like another surprise. Like I didn't get to the Requiem room until I think like yesterday, and I've been ripping Totenreich all weekend. So yeah, it's really cool to see that like they're kind of back to incorporating things that like are really hidden, and you're not going to experience every game, or even like multiple games in a row. You're not going to go to the, you know, the Requiem room or the Richtofen side Easter egg room, or what's the third one? Oh yeah, the Ava Jansen room that explained. Yeah, it's so sick. Totenreich's absolutely insane. I love it. I asked AQW this question, same question last week, but do you remember how you felt about them bringing back the OG crew when like it was sort of revealed?
So sick and tired of it. I know everyone already saw the leak and we were leading up to it. It was basically like, you know, a car crash happening in slow motion. We just none of us could look away from it. But I have to give credit where it's due. I'm very impressed with how they've handled it. But obviously, if I could, I would just much rather Requiem tell this full story, let a unique set of characters tell a brand new story. I'm always going to champion unique storytelling over old storytelling, but credit where it's due. It is a lot of fun, and it feels like that they're really diving into what makes these characters unique, special, interesting to follow along with, and it reminds you why you like following along with them in the first place. You like seeing the worst of these people and then cheering for them when they fight their demons and conquer them, or don't conquer them in some cases.
Yeah, that goes with my point. Like this was really a good opportunity to like have like meld the world between modern and OG. I can't say that they've necessarily succeeded in that. I think the Tempest crew, as we're calling them, very, very solid, and so many lore implications to do with like are they like realized memories and things like that is so damn neat. I just wish it all went together, and like to be fair, there are a lot of like quotes between like Gray and Richtofen or things like that are neat. I just wish they fully sent it.
That's the only thing where like Zombies is held back. Like that's the limitation of Zombies. I always think about it where it's like, have you ever read the Victus comics where like it has Victus going through like the world and they're trying to get the Chronorium?
I'm familiar with them. I've never read them fully, but I'm familiar with the stories.
I'll explain my thoughts and pull up an image in a second. But one of my favorite thoughts about those comics is that they have all the characters as these different sizes. They're all completely caricatured from each other. And it always makes me yearn for the fact that it's like, what if Zombies actually took advantage of the different dynamics? In this map in particular, Astrid, her whole life was ruined by Richthofen, this Norwegian villager who was trying to defend the rights of Odin, and she couldn't. She got killed for trying to hide the secrets. And when you're doing the one-upping quest, she's like, thank Odin, I can give this lantern to someone who's worthy. And you're playing as Richthofen, so it's like, I don't think Richthofen's worthy to claim this.
Right.
But stuff like that, where I wish Zombies as a mode was able to go more into like each character could have its own like unique things going on. Certain characters can't claim things. The different sizes of the characters dictated who could fit through certain spaces and zombie hordes, and being able to differentiate, like in Chaos. Maybe Bruno has more health than, say, Shaw, but Shaw has a better arsenal of weaponries to pull out of. Diego has better, weapon tactics, whereas Scarlet has more access to equipment because she's a builder. She can make things. I would love to see Zombies delve more into that as a mode, but I'm not sure if they can do that with how cookie cutter it can feel sometimes. If you check VC chat, just look at the sizes of Victus. Like, look how big Russman is compared to the other two. But in regular Zombies, he's the exact same size.
Is that a point you've talked about before? Because I have heard
I think
this
I brought
idea
up in a
that
tweet once.
really okay.
Once.
I might have seen that because that idea is very familiar to me, and I already knew that Russman was like big in the comics because I'd seen that idea that sort of like a class system like Dungeons and Dragons or something. I love that. That would be so neat. In another world, perhaps.
Extinction does a great job with it.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I guess I just wonder how they would like navigate that like solo. Like you get so long in like the quest, but you're like a big character, and there's like a small thing that you got to fit through, and then you're like, well, time to restart.
Exactly, and that's where like I would like to see the creativity of the team find ways around that. But I definitely think Zombies could thrive so much more by making each of its 4 to 8 characters distinct in some way, that it gives like the player more advantages or disadvantages depending on who they pick. It gives more variety.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like
Especially,
that.
you mentioned like Astrid saying like finally somebody worthy, and like you're playing as Richthofen. It's because I think like when like I've only played as Richthofen on Totenreich, and it's like I think when he gets the Jotun star, he's like, maybe like I shouldn't. He said something along the lines of like, maybe I shouldn't have like shot you or something. And it's like, all right, Richthofen, all right. Sounds good, man. I asked AQW the same question that I just asked you, basically about like how you felt about Tempest returning. I think AQW was like a little bit lukewarm about it. I was like fully smooth-brained, like give me the OG crew, like I don't care what's like. I'm fully on board with it, and I don't really care too much to see like the Requiem crew like merged with them. I guess I think it's like just focusing on, I guess, like the lore of each character that we got in Tempest, to me at least. And I'm much less nuanced with like the lore and everything that you are, but to me it seems like the lore is like really cool from what I've seen at least.
Yeah, I definitely think they're trying to cater to the best of both worlds right now, where it's like they know there is a fan base for Requiem, so that still gives to people who like playing as them a reason to play as them, and then people who just want to see the OG characters, they have that option too. And I'm really happy that Requiem hasn't been fully sidelined. I know they don't really get the most lines and they don't get the cool side quest, but I remember hearing about that. They were going to wrap up Requiem's story at like DLC 3, and then they were gone. And then it was just going to be, the rest of it was going to be Tempest. But I'm really glad that they're still here. They seem to be along for the ride fully. This map does a great job tying in everything from MWZ to Vanguard. That's something that I think the map does really well. It's finally tying together all of its loose ends in a meaningful way. Because if we don't do this, then we're just going to have these external like strands forever. So I really just want them to tie all this together. Ava Jansen's supposed to be here. Cortifex is in Richthofen's flashback. Make all this stuff match up. It has to.
In spite of how BO6 handled a lot of these things, I really hope they can put a bow on all these loose threads in a satisfying way. It can be done. I'm convinced it definitely can be done well. I just hope we get there nicely, and as many people are as satisfied as possible with it for the people that care.
Yep. Yeah, no matter what, there's going to be some people that are unhappy with it, but yeah, to your guys' points, like the trailer definitely from BO6 to BO7 has taken a massive step in the right direction for storytelling and like lore and everything. So I think they've like should have regained the the confidence of the community that they're going to be able to, close it out really well, and I guess to your guys' points, like satisfy most of the community at least.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked a lot about the boss fight and then other boss fights. What are your thoughts on the boss fight as a whole, Stanley? Like the spectacle, the mechanics, just everything. What are your thoughts?
The spectacle is complete top tier. The mechanics are pretty good. And then there's one thing that drives me up a wall about the boss fight is super sprinters and then the lack of armor in cursed. I despise that's how they're balancing cursed currently, where it's like, oh, we're just not going to give you any armor. What? The whole game is built off of having armor at essentially all full times, and now you're just going to take it away, and I'm just going to get murdered. And then super sprinters, I think it's a bit too much, but the arena is really big, so I get it. But anyways, the rest of the boss fight is fantastic. I've been meaning to ask, because I noticed this. In solo, when you get to like the last half of the HP bar, the second you get to the last quarter, it jumps right into the last phase. Whereas in co-op, I've noticed that before you reach the last quarter of his health, he does one more phase of the heads. Is that a
really?
co-op versus solo thing? If you
I
guys
have not played.
remember that right now?
I haven't played co-op, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay, because when I did a co-op, you have to do 3 head phases. Once when the robot goes down, once when he's at half HP, and then once when he's at a quarter. But in solo, from half HP, he goes right into the last phase.
Like
in cursed levels, I think.
In terms of like the mechanics of it, though, like how do you feel about that?
No, I love the mechanics of it. I like that you can use the wonder weapon to heat yourself up. You have the flame traps to heat yourself up. Just like dodging all the runes, and all the runes it doesn't feel random. They all have very specific combinations based on what he uses against you. So they all have different counters and tells. Like that stuff's really cool. And it's surprisingly simplistic. I just love the way it's done.
I did the cursed boss fight for the first time last night, and I immediately picked up on, they're not dropping armor. Okay, so that's how we're gonna do it. It's a shame. I wish there were mechanically some differences, or maybe just he barrages you a little extra more, sort of how Vaetherion does. But yeah, just no armor, and that's how it is. It's a little lazy, but it definitely makes it more difficult. At the end of the day, that is their goal, but I wish it would be done differently.
Yeah,
it's not like fun in the right way sometimes, and that's what like annoys me about it. Where it's like you're just constantly getting chipped away your armor, and then the second you try and do anything, if you mess up, you're just instantly dead.
But spectacle, oh boy,
spectacle, ooh, some of my
beautiful.
Favorite in the whole franchise. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I can't think personally. I don't think I can think of anything else that compares to it, unless I'm forgetting something. I mentioned, what's his name? Mephistopheles. That's another one that's up there with like spectacle and everything. Are there like I guess like what other boss fights would you say compete with Dravicar for like
spectacle of like that, where like it's a full sequence? I can't think of a single one. Maybe 9 can get up there. Ancient Evil is probably a good second. Forsaken has really good spectacle. Well, not spectacle, but storytelling. Avogadro. Valentina. Again, but like to the level that this is, no, I think it's on a whole new level. That's where I'm talking about, where like the map raises the bar. Where it's just like the whole ending sequence where once you've stopped him, he's about to like go for the big punch.
Yeah.
The tear saying, there's nothing like German engineering, and he tears out his heart. That my jaw was so dropped. I thought it was the coolest thing they had ever done in Zombies, and I don't know. I think that's, maybe I'm easily impressed. I don't know, but I love it.
No, dude, I agree with you. Like it's so sick. Especially when I thought when like the first time when Dravicar like smokes them and like they're off in the distance and Dravicar's just beating the snot out of him, I was like, oh shoot, Tyr's dead. Like it's just me now, and I gotta like carry the torch going forward. And then to your point at the end, just the punch through the back, and like AQW mentioned this, I didn't really notice it my first go around, but like his face sort of like melting off or something towards the end.
Yeah, his face pops off and his horn breaks on, like his left horn breaks.
Oh really?
That's really
I didn't notice
badass.
That's so sick.
Yeah. That whole sequence is like really cool. Where like right at the end, you're locked in, like the arena is shortened. You have to now fight, to the death. You have in Curse, you have zombies spawning in front of you too.
Yeah.
So that makes it even more difficult. The flame trap is gone. Really cool stuff. Like that's just like, yes.
It's so peak.
Yeah.
I love it. One thing I
High
noticed,
moments and aura.
that's what it's all about, man. Somebody in the Discord, I don't remember who it was, so forgive me, but they mentioned that like he shoots the shape, like the runes in that last step, he shoots them in like shapes, or I guess like he shoots the 115 rocks in shapes of like runes.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that, so like I guess there's ways to like dodge that. I was just like gritting my teeth, and like one of us is dying right here. So
Yep.
whatever happens. I didn't know that they were in like shapes. Was that with 4 people? That has to be like super chaotic.
Yeah, I remember on our winning run when we were all doing it together on day 1, it was so chaotic. We're all like running around, running for our lives, barely getting through it. But no, like I'd say like after doing I've done so far 6 runs of the quest, or maybe 7, something like that. Anyways, it gets a lot easier once you know what to do. Like you can pretty much dodge most runes by just staying on the sides of the wall. The one that comes in waves, you just go fully prone underneath it, and then you just kind of just swerve between the other ones.
Okay. Yeah, usually what I was doing is kind of hugging the wall there, and I was like, there's like some protection here, I guess. We'll figure it out when we get to it, but yeah, it's so sick. AQW, what are your thoughts on that final stage there?
It's so good. I could tell that there was a pattern to go along with the runes and how the rocks were coming at me, but I was still like no information. I had to just, well, yeah, I was learning it on the spot. It didn't help that like almost right when I started the boss fight entirely, I lost quick revive, so I was being so careful. I think it ended up being a death machine that sort of saved me, but no, it's fantastic. And it is more than just spectacle. Like it mechanically, it is very fun. I could argue that it's the best boss fight period. I don't have every single boss fight under my belt, admittedly, but it is a full package of all different facets of things that you would look for in a boss fight. Very satisfied.
Yeah, later this year I'm planning on going for like beating like every single Easter egg without getting a single game over. And I'm so worried to go through all of the BO7 ones, because like I feel like most of the BO7 ones, as good as I am at them, sometimes they're not always the most consistent with like, even if you know all the strategies, you can still die. The BO6 was just the same way. Z-Rex and Richtofen could both easily catch me off guard, and then I would just die to something stupid, even no matter how good I am at the game sometimes.
Are you gonna do Richtofen on that run?
No, I'm probably just gonna do Sam and call it a day.
Easy way out.
Especially if I'm that far in and I've just did like Tortured Path, Classified 150, Mephistopheles. I ain't going back.
Stanley, you're gonna put yourself through the ringer, bro. That's actually like even like the BO4 ones, like.
Last time we did it, BO4s were they were all cakewalks. I did all those first try. Those are all.
I'm trying to think of it. I struggle with funny I'm mentioning it to you, the Eye of Odin. Sometimes I get caught up, like it's mainly like the zombies around me that I'll sort of like neglect them just to like get that phase of the eyeball done, and then I just go down like an idiot.
Oh yeah.
Just get good.
Yeah, it's mad cause bad for sure. But no, yeah, the boss fight's incredible. I love how they like grapple, and then like Tyr will just like bring Dravakar to like the front and basically say like light him up, essentially. It's like, yeah, dude, that's exactly what I'm talking about. What are your thoughts on BO7 as a whole? Like how it's stacked up compared to BO6, just zombies in general?
BO7 as a whole is a massive step up in quality from Cold War, Vanguard, MWZ, and even BO6. I feel like everything that it's doing, this is a game that is firing on all cylinders, and while I don't like all of the content that it's putting out there, what it is putting out there is nothing short of fantastic, well-developed, always kind of breaks my expectations in fun ways. It's not the most perfect game in the world. I don't think any game can be, especially not this one, but they did a really good job making it feel like this is an experience to be remembered, even if I do have some issues with it. Like, I think it can be a very repetitive and a very grindy game. I think BO7 is the last game I would recommend to anyone who just wants to jump into zombies, because the amount of grinding that you have to do to play this game at any sort of high level, like cursed, high rounds, even just standard Easter eggs at this point, require you to have so many augments unlocked, so many weapons leveled up, so many strategies figured out. This is definitely not the most pick up and play entry, and I do hope in the future they kind of backtrack away from how much grinding you have to do just to like compete in a match of zombies.
I've never thought about it like that. Like,
Me neither.
I didn't think about it either, but I had a buddy during BO6. He told me, he was like, dude, why do I have to grind to just unlock, Juggernog augments? That makes no sense. What a waste of time. And I was going to counter him like, well, you're playing the game. You unlock more upgrades. But the more I thought about it, the more it just kind of made me realize he's kind of right. You really do have to play this game a lot.
It's
for
a long
basic progression. It's so much time. If you have all of the augments unlocked, I figured this out. If you have all the BO6 augments unlocked, and then you boot up BO7 to unlock every augment currently in the game, I guess it's more now with Wildfire, to unlock every augment in the game plus the ones you've already unlocked in BO6, the amount of XP it takes in Zombies alone is every single level up to entering Prestige Master. And just like, that's how many levels of XP that you need to unlock every single augment. Now, you don't need every single augment, but I think that's a little buku crazy. So
wow.
That's insane.
Yeah, I was hearing it from the perspective of, well, like the first thing I thought when you were talking is like yeah, we really all kind of the true fans that had all augments in BO6, like we really had a leg up. But
yes, we did.
Still, to your point, like it is very grindy. I'm someone who is gonna play the game regardless, so I don't mind that. But for people getting into zombies, that's actually a very good point.
Yeah, like I could never recommend this game to my buddy who kind of skipped out on it, because it's just like, yeah, dude, so if you want to play this game and play it the stuff that we want to do with the Easter eggs, you're going to need to unlock this, and that, get to this level, have Brain Rot unlocked, get at least 2 Juggernog augments unlocked so you have, the double miner ability on it. It's like, I can't ask him to do that.
It's interesting, too, because, like, people will argue that modern zombies is, like, just made for casuals. Yeah. So it does have that weird push and pull, but between the audiences.
It's something that interests me a lot. Yeah. No, yeah, it's very interesting. Where it's like, yes, it is casual, but then sometimes the game is at odds with that mentality. So then it's kind of like, who is this game for? And I'm really glad the game, is being beloved by hardcore players, as it should be. But it just made me think about it, where it's like, man, that's gotta suck for anyone who's just getting into this franchise. But that's what Directed is for. So.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because like, Kevin Drew was saying he wanted to cater in BO6, wanted to cater it to both hardcore and casual players, and that's a thin line to walk on. Yes. And you mentioning the augments, is that like, I never thought about that, how much like you can't just like boot. I mean, you can obviously, but like you're going to be at a serious disadvantage compared to everybody else who's been like grinding the game, especially if you start on BO7, which I think a lot of people, I mean, it's so unfortunate that the player base is so down compared to BO6, because BO7 is like so many levels above BO6, and I say that as somebody that loves BO6, but yeah, grinding the augments and like different attachments and stuff for like the weapons, it's definitely like it's a commitment that you have to make if you want to be like fully equipped to take on like zombies and like some of these boss fights, especially the cursed ones.
Yep. I was thinking about like day 1 Vatharian, where it's like, until I had basically some of the jug augments unlocked, like some of the new ones in the double miner, he was kicking my butt in terms of just like, I was always going down. Oh, I'm like, how do you do this without any augments? But yeah, sorry.
No, you're fine. I have to ask you, because it's been like a conversation piece for the past few weeks. What are your thoughts on no new perks or things like that? Like, because I was under the assumption that we would be getting hopefully at least a new perk every map. Yeah.
I mean, I thought the game was going to end out on 16. It's looking like it's going to end out on probably 15.
You think so? Because we're at 13
I think so,
right now,
we only have 2 maps left, right? It's DLC. It's volcano map, and then we'll talk about that in a minute. Volcano map, and then whatever the last map is. So.
Well, I was thinking 14, honestly. Like, I don't know if we got a new
14.
perk
Yeah.
Which I was thinking earlier, and I mentioned it again in last week's podcast. I don't like depth perception. Like, I would rather not have depth perception than like the only benefit it has, in my opinion, is like, I think sometimes like a body shot deals critical damage or something.
Oh, do you have the augment that makes it so that if you turn your back, it like reduces damage?
That's a thing for depth perception?
Yeah. There's one where like it puts a little like orange marker on your back, but whenever a zombie's near it, but also any zombie that hits you on your back is reduced. So with Turtle Shell, it like reduces the damage that Turtle Shell takes even more.
Is that a major or a minor?
I think it's a major. Don't quote me on that. I haven't changed my
so too.
augments in forever.
I'll have to check what I have. It
check
might be that.
I'd recommend.
But like,
yeah,
I noticed
Yeah.
Okay. I noticed with the minors, like the one minor I just mentioned is like body shot is critical damage, and then the other ones are like like increased radar frequency, like better loot,
Yeah.
looking under objects. I'm like, I don't care about like what are these? Like I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like I would rather just not have them on, honestly. Like seeing like the orange outline of the zombies through walls is just a hindrance. So I was thinking personally,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if they just didn't come up with Wisp T and just made like Death Perception Wisp T, like get rid of those. Maybe make like the Wisp T like zombie sitter thing is like a Vulturade augment or something. And then just have a clean 12 when they come out with like seemingly Widow's Wine in one of these next two maps.
Yeah.
Because it seems like some of the because like me and AQW disagree on this. He loves like the new perks, new field upgrades, all that. To me, and we mentioned it a few times, like the you know what like a Noah J like thumbnail looks like, where it's like round 100, like papped ray gun, like all the perks you've ever thought about in your life are like on the screen.
Yep.
Like that's kind of what my HUD is starting to look like. And I'm fine just keeping it at like 12, and if they just adding Widow's Wine and getting rid of those two, because basically I say all this to say that like a new perk doesn't really mean that much to me, because I feel like we're super OP already. We have like all these get out of jail free cards. Yeah, it just seems a little bit cluttered in my opinion.
No, I totally agree with you.
Damn.
Yeah, there's yeah, it's
Score one
definitely
for sure.
something that like coming from BO6 to BO7, it is a lot. And then that goes back to my conversation earlier of like, you know, how much a player has to unlock just to keep up. So it's like BO8, I definitely want to see a reduction in mechanics and how much the player has to actually unlock. I would love to be able to jump into a game of zombies and have everything on the onset. If Totenreich was like that, in you know, in a whole other world where Totenreich's on like, you know, a game that's as limited as BO1 or BO3, people, you know, that would be a thing to shoot for. You have the fishing mechanics, you have the 2 unique, you know, equipment, you have all these helmets, very Revelation style. People would love that.
That is a good point. My main thing with it is I really liked the idea of, you know, especially when you have something like the Wonder Fizz, where perks are retroactively made available on all maps. I like the idea of you buff the player up over the year, and in turn you're able to make the latter DLC season maps more difficult, because you know that they're going to be obviously more stacked, and then that can make the earlier maps have a different feel, because you were able to take them down with less, so you can kind of run all over them if you want to. But I think it is a good idea to maybe instead do things like with the helmets on Totenreich, that you can still implement perk like effects in ways that fit the map thematically and all that. So
yeah, I mean that's what they were doing in Revelations in BO3. They definitely felt like they were struggling to come up with new perk ideas, and they're like, okay, well, let's just, you know, give players different abilities that aren't perks. You know, a Mangler helmet doesn't really sound like a perk in itself, but as a unique upgrade, that's a cool way to keep players going. Revelations, you had those hats that then gave you, like, you know, extra duration on stamina up and an extra hit on jug. These like additional perks that stacked on top of what you already had. That's cool.
Right.
Yeah. I guess I hadn't thought about it until we got all these hats on Totenreich, but that's a great point that I had not thought about, and I think I end up preferring that now, actually.
Yeah. Like, see, like, again, like that stuff where it's like, I would much rather see them come up with unique upgrades than just more perks. I'm in the camp where it's like, we don't need 17 perks. I like that each of the core perks more or less covers a different function. Jug is health, speed cola is ammo reload, quick revives health regeneration, blah, 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 so on and so forth. The point being that having so many at that point kind of feels like overkill. And then you look at, you know, bosses like poor Patient 13, who by the end of BO6 was getting decimated because he wasn't ever updated to account for player power level. But at the same time, do the devs need to keep auto-correcting bosses to keep power level going? Because there's clearly a power creep in both this game and BO6. You know, this year started out without the Voyak, and now the Voyak is the go-to AR that is destroying everything in sight.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I would say, I mean, double tap was, like, at least in my opinion, like that was like the thing that basically like broke boss fights. Like you go back and just annihilate Patient 13, but in BO7 we have double tap for every map, so it's not like that big a difference. But to your point, like, yeah, even like a weapon like the Voyak, getting that, I think we got that with.
Yeah. But then what sucks
Paradox?
is that, like, let's say you go down in the boss fight, you're not that good at zombies, and you kept 3 perks. You kept Jug, Speed Cola, and PhD Flopper. And now, because every boss is balanced around you having all 14 perks at all times, you now basically are, you can't do anything. You're dead. The power jump is so big, which is what I do like about Eternal perks. I like that that's an option. That keeps you, from losing all your perks in the end game. But yeah, definitely, it can definitely be like, where does the gap between difficulty and then just the game being straight up unfair come into play? So that's a whole other conversation.
Right. Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about before we get into these dead drops?
I think we're ready.
Do you guys have any more questions for me? I'm good. Yeah.
I think we're all set. Do you want to read them, AQW, or should I?
I got them pulled up here, and Stanley, I'll defer to you first as the guest.
Thank you.
First off, Warman asks, does a wonder weapon need to always be infinite damage, or is a well-designed wonder weapon that falls off in high rounds a good design?
I think you can have an argument for both, but in this day and age when Stuntman, the PhD augment, is infinite damage, and the Jotun Star takes 4 swipes to kill an armored zombie, that's where I'm like, okay, maybe we should just buff the Jotun Star so that the wonder weapon actually feels powerful, because currently the strategy is turning into the gnome and jumping off a wall for God knows however long.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I mean, I'd say I agree with you. It definitely, and we've mentioned it multiple times on the pod, like, I want a wonder weapon, which I feel like we haven't got in a long time, unless I'm forgetting something, which is like just your just mindless, like, point and shoot, delete an entire horde, like Apothecon Servant style wonder weapon. We haven't gotten something like that in a long time. I thought we were getting something up to par with that with the Jotun Star until I hit round 40, and I was like, woof, this thing just fell off a cliff. I would say, so as somebody that doesn't high round, I think it's well designed if it falls off at a certain point. As much as I would like some kind of like infinite damage wonder weapon, I don't have a gripe with it falling off at a certain point and then forcing the player to find some kind of other strategy besides just like camping in a corner or something.
It's an interesting question because, like, I pack-a-punched to tier 4 the Jotun Star, and it ended up not really falling off until like mid to late 50s, so it was a lot better in that way. But I'm thinking back, like, it's bizarre that most games have a quote-unquote wonder weapon that isn't actually a wonder weapon. Like specialists come to mind and things like that. So it depends how it's balanced in the greater ecosystem of that particular game. All that to say, buff the Jotun Star a little bit more, but no, I don't think a wonder weapon necessarily needs to be infinite damage. And with that said, Warman, thank you for the question. Eric asks, how do y'all feel about Richtofen's side quest, and did it answer some of the theories you had?
Absolutely loved it. One of my biggest gripes with the Dark Aether storylines is sometimes it doesn't really feel like they want to cross over their characters from the other games. Like, it's always seemed to be that there was some taboo against Ava Jansen and Von List and Cortifex. So it's really cool. They're doing that. They gave us an alternate universe version of Von List. Now, my only question is, are there multiple Cortifexes? Is it just one Cortifex going around? Why is Cortifex taking aid from a human? He's no longer trapped in the scepter. So I would love to get the answer to that question, but maybe that's just me looking too much into it.
Yeah, the Richtofen side, I mean, I think it's awesome. I kind of went back and forth a little bit with like how much I liked it between that and Nikolai's side quest, because that one's awesome too. But I did land on like really, like, I think Richtofen's my favorite one in the game so far, at least. There's just so many elements to it that, like, the radio, first of all, was insane to listen to the first go around. Sort of like the hallway that you walk through, and then walking back down that same hallway, but it's sort of chaotic. Like, you have all the zombies coming out and they're on fire and everything, as well as the scale before you walk out back into the hallway, sort of weighing the difference between, and I mentioned on last week's podcast, the difference between, like, they're like toy soldiers, but they're like basically the symbolism is like human life versus 115 or power. Sort of like weighing them on a scale like that. I thought it was phenomenal. I didn't really have any, like, I guess, theories or anything that were related to that, so it was just, I thought it was just really cool. It didn't really like answer or deny any theories that I had going on, but it's so sick. I love it.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite, just because of how interactable it is. And it is nice that they're, especially in this map, leaning into bringing the ugly ducklings back into the Dark Aether storyline with Vanguard and MWZ. It's like I said, it's very interactable, and I think it sheds more light on this version of Richthofen, which is always a good thing. Richthofen, in my eyes, is far and away the most interesting character of the OG crew in every way you slice it. So yeah, I knew it was going to be solid. Was not expecting some of the directions they went in with that, especially with the Vanguard lore. But yes, very, very satisfied with the Richthofen side egg. And with that said, Eric, thank you very much for the question. Next is Shelly. Do you think they're sticking to the volcano map for Takio, or do you believe we're going somewhere different and the volcano temple will be a part of his quest, like how Vietnam, Afghanistan, and nuked New York ended up being for Dempsey, Nikolai, and Richthofen's?
I would hope so. I'm not sure if they're going to. It definitely seems like what happened was that early on, maybe they did want to make each location specific to each person, but then that only became part of their side quest. I'm not sure where they're gonna send them. I hope that they do send them to this volcano area. It'd be cool if, the maps got crazier and crazier with each one.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what Dravikar said in the outro, if he did say it, they're going to an island or not.
It was like a fiery, like something related to fire, which I guess you could sort of make the jump that it's like the volcano map.
Yeah, I hope so, but it definitely seems like that they just ended up making all those side quests just simply, or all the main plot points simply are part of side quest. And then who knows, maybe that Dark Aether space station will be where the warden is.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, it'd be so interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you, Stanley. I think that's probably just a side quest thing, but the fact that it's, I mean, I guess part of me wants it to be, to your point, like that temple volcano map, because that sounds like an insane location, but no, based off of what we've seen so far, it seems like that's the side quest, even though the main map is still somewhat related to, fire.
Yep.
Yeah, it said fiery place, which is weird that they keep using that terminology. Cold place, fiery place. It's very vague. But yeah, I'm now under the assumption that all of the leaks were related to the side quest, whether it was that from the beginning or it's just become that now in development. Yeah, as much as it sounds really cool, I'm not expecting that to be the case now. I talked last week. I wonder if, like, what we saw in the Paradox Junction intro cutscene, like the Warden's Lair, so to speak, like it looks kind of hellish and maybe could be that hot fiery place. But I expect if we're gonna go to the Warden's place, that's gonna be the finale map. Yep. But yeah, if we see a volcano, I expect it to be a side quest for sure.
Okay.
With that said, Shelly, thank you very much for the question. Next, M. Captain Caro asks, how do you think Paradox Junction will age? Every map in BO7 has a wow factor, but Paradox doesn't really have that for me. I think the Sundergat is miserable to use, and while the time travel mechanic is cool, I don't think it gives it enough identity.
I think it's surprisingly going to age a lot better somehow than Astra, which brings a tear to my eye. But there definitely seems to be this pull for... There's a big majority of fans that just want a map that you can jump into, get into, play around with. And Paradox absolutely has that. Even if it's not the most unique-looking Zombies map, it's probably the only one in a long time that just lets you... It's a full experience, but you can just jump into it and play it however you want, compared to the rest of them, where even the little bits of friction that the rest of these maps have is too much for some people. They just want to play what is essentially a souped-up survival map, and to them, more power to them.
Yeah, it's definitely... So I'm somebody that loves Paradox. I like it a little bit better than Astra, and that's not... I mean, I love Astra too. I love all the BO7 maps, but...
Yeah.
Dude, I'm such a sucker for it's easily the best quest in BO7 for me. I thought them tying in like the twins and everything, and how we're doing like the little like mini games. As gotta mention it again, as somebody who's like a quest guy, that's Astra's shortcoming and that's Paradox's strength. So I guess that's why I value it more. And I want to say, I agree with you, Stanley. I want to say that I think the community will sort of warm up to it as time goes on. you could say it's Nuketown, but it's such a different, at least the nuked version of it. Obviously the past version of it isn't so unique, but it does have Alpha Omega callbacks, which is, I mean, Alpha Omega is top 10 map of all time, so that's a good decision on their end. But no, dude, yeah, Paradox, I love it. I think the community will catch up to it as well. I think it's just to your point, like a fun map to jump in. It's the easiest setup and everything. And I would disagree with M Captain Carl. I think that the time travel mechanic is not like the draw that people would have to Paradox, but it's a unique, it's super unique how they do it. Like, it's not just like the teleporter animation, which I think potentially makes or breaks the map for a lot of people, myself included. Like, if it was just the animation, I would feel so differently about the map.
Yeah, I mean, especially having to do that with how many times you have to activate the time travel. That was a teleport animation. Yeah.
So I do think the community will warm up to it a little more.
Yeah, I agree with Shorbzy that like the story in this map is definitely such a high point. I love how the twins played into the entire quest along the whole way. In my opinion, it's by far the best Nuketown Zombies map we've gotten. I think, thankfully for me, I was expecting less than what we got, so I was very, very pleased. And to Stanley's point, I do tend to play Paradox when I want a sort of survival experience, and it's obviously pretty different than all of the Ashes POIs that we got used to. Yeah, Paradox, how it'll age as far as the greater community is concerned, I mean, if nothing else, just because I enjoy it so much, I hope it's along for the ride with the package that is BO7, which I believe is on a generational run right now. Yeah. And I hope it gets the credit that it deserves. With that said, M Captain Caro, thank you so much for the question. Last but not least, John Black Ops asks, favorite guilty pleasure map?
I mean, it's Voyage, but if I had to pick something that's not Voyage, let me think about it for a moment. That's the only question that's not my picture. I didn't think about that one. Let me think. Favorite guilty pleasure map.
You want me to go while you're thinking, Stanley?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. Let's see. Favorite. So like just a bad map that you. I want to. I told AKW this before recording. I want to say Alpha Omega, but I refuse to accept that it's a bad map.
That map sucks so much, dude.
All right, that's gonna do it for today's episode, fellas. No, I think okay. I'll buy it. I'll go Darkest Shore from World War II.
Ooh.
A lot of people. So I mention it all the time. It used to be my least favorite map of all time, but as I played it more and sort of got used to like the nuances with the Easter egg steps and like how to, I guess, just not get pissed off when the stupid whistling.
What voicelers?
Or yeah, when they just like when he keeps getting, I think, stamina up or whatever that stupid.
Oh, you mean the whistling if charge? Yeah, the power ups.
Yeah. Yeah, just the more like you play it, like the atmosphere. I think it's easily the scariest map of all time. A lot of people will say that like it doesn't have atmosphere because it's like gray and like the fog rolls in and everything, and it's not super saturated. But like, I think that ties into how horrific the map, like how it feels. Like it's actually like terrifying loading into Darkest Shore, and I don't think you feel that on any other map in Zombies. I think it like hits a grand slam in terms of going for a certain atmosphere that they wanted to have the players feel and executing it. I think I love Darkest Shore now. It's like a top, I'd say like a top 20 map for me now. So that's my guilty pleasure.
Wow. Yeah, I think I came back to I think mine's would probably have to be Astra Malorum, which I know is so new, but I feel like a lot of like I did a poll recently, and it was like 2/3 Paradox, 1/3 Astra, and that blew my mind. People do not like Astra.
Wow.
I love Astra so much.
Where does it rank for like the BO7 maps for you?
It probably still ranks in 3rd out of like the 4, but it's such a high 3rd place. I'm a big fan of space theming. I love the Mars reveal. I love the way the quest plays into the map. I love the Wonder Weapon. I love the way it looks. I love the vista of it. The art design. It's one of my favorite maps. Like, I just like it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, just we were talking about side eggs earlier. Just like the wall jump and like floating in space is like, I'm the hype moments in horror guy. That is like, that's insane, dude. That's like, I love that stuff so much.
Yeah.
It's really sweet. So
Yeah.
is Paradox way below Astra for you in terms of BO7
Way
maps?
below. But
Okay.
it's really, it's not even, I guess it's not that far. I just don't like the Nuketown location and the Blundergat. I feel like both of those are hard misses
Okay.
for the map. They really want to play with the whole prison aspect. That's why the Blundergat's there, but it never really feels like that. Like the game has the characters being like, I feel like I'm such a time loop, but nothing the game does goes into that. And I'm not going to go through anymore because I'm just going to rant and compare it to Mob of the Dead. But when you see how Mob of the Dead uses time travel and imprisonment and ties its themes to its story and gameplay, it just does it much better than how Paradox does it, where it's more just set dressing that the map has rather than... And it is a gameplay mechanic, but the gameplay mechanic never really feels tied into the map thematically in a way that's interesting.
Okay.
Fair enough. As much as I want to say Paradox, I think I want to go actually OG Nuketown Zombies. There's I feel like it's such an overlooked map that people don't remember at all. But there's something so special about the perks and Pack-a-Punch falling down. And as annoying as it can be, I think that gives such a specific flavor just for that map. It's always something I never like could get behind hating. Like I understand it can be an obstacle in the map, but I think obstacles are, if done right, they're a key part of identity for a map. And for that reason, yeah, Nuketown, I can always go back and play. And it's unfortunate that it has to be like tied to like the multiplayer identity as well, but I don't even really see it as that. Nuketown Zombies, it's in its own boat for me, and it's such a unique experience.
I mean, just having those like the perks falling, that's such a good friction mechanic. Not enough maps nowadays have that, where like they feel like that they're something that's so out of your way that it messes with you. Jimmy Zielinski loved having that. Kevin, as much as I love Kevin Drew, I don't think they're ever gonna throw a mechanic in your way that's gonna like shake up the gameplay in that kind of sense. They very much have a groove with how they like modern zombies playing. But I would love to be proven wrong one day.
Agreed. Absolutely.
I mean, I guess the closest is Oscar, but even then, the map's pretty big. You can just walk away from him most of the time.
That's Smash Round 50.
Yes.
He's hawking you down.
I mean, at least they slowed him down so now he doesn't sprint at you, but still.
Yeah. With that said, John Black Ops, thank you very much for the question. Stanley, is there anything you wanted to cover at the end here before Shorbzy takes us home?
Yeah, no, not really. I think just BO7 is on a great path. If Paradox is the one map I'm going to feel kind of iffy on, this is a fantastic year. Every single map, in my opinion, has knocked it out of the park in one way or another. I think that if they can just tie it up together and bring it home, BO6 failed right at the finish line with the Reckoning for me, so it really brought down the whole experience. If they can nail it with these last two maps and just do something that feels interesting, then I'll be more than sold as this being like a top 3 game for me.
Sweet. That's what I like to hear, because we're right there in lockstep with you.
Yep.
All right, yeah, with all that said, thank you guys so much for watching episode 14, right? 14 of the Pack Mentality podcast. We appreciate you a ton. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Follow all of us on Twitter. If for some reason you've been living under a rock and you follow us and not Stanley, then please go check him out. His videos are insane. Yeah, we appreciate you guys a ton. It's been such an honor having Stanley on. It's just the most nuanced guy that we've ever had on the podcast, or at least that I've seen that I follow on YouTube and Twitter. Stanley, we appreciate you a ton for stopping by, man. And
no, seriously, it was my pleasure. Thank you.
Peace.
See you guys next week. Peace.
Shelly, how you doing?